Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to my introduction to Powtoon. So to get things started, I just have a little video here that I made in Powtoon to just introduce the topic to you and hopefully sketch out what I'm going to be covering in the rest of the lesson. It's become clear that online learning is here to stay. There's no doubt that online learning has advantages for both students and educators, but has a clear set of drawbacks as well. For educators who are more used to the in-person environment, the question surely arises: how can we keep our classes interesting and creative in the online environment? Fortunately, there are tools like Powtoon to allow you to channel your creative energies into the online classroom. Powtoon lets you create visually appealing videos that you can use to connect with students quickly. Powtoon can be used to communicate announcements to your class, it can be used to teach lesson content, or it can introduce yourself or an assignment to students. Powtoon expresses information in a way that is clear and fun. It doesn't take a lot of training or practice for you to be able to create professional-looking videos. In today's class, I'll give you the basics of how to use Powtoon. We'll discuss how to create a professor introduction from a template. We'll then go over how to customize and create your own unique videos. By the end, you should feel confident enough to experiment with the program on your own. Let's get started. Okay. So that's I think a pretty good example of the kind of thing that you can do fairly easily with Powtoon. Now, the reason why I suggested just providing a little training session on how to use it is because I genuinely believe that this is a really versatile tool and something that slots in quite nicely with the kind of software skills that we already have and that we're already used to using, even in pre-COVID days when we were doing a lot of things in person, but we still had some online content. My view is that Powtoon is really an excellent addendum to the kinds of tools like PowerPoint or other presentation softwares or things like that that you're already probably used to using. This is a little more complicated. It requires you to do a little bit more, but it's still well within the wheelhouse of non-tech people. And what I think is really cool about it is that it's something that you can really bring a lot of creativity to. And I know I really actually enjoy using it to make videos, and using it for different kinds of things in the classroom. So as I mentioned in my video there, this is something that can be used not just as a replacement for lessons, but something that can also be used as introductory material. So something that just captures students' attention, briefly introduce them to a module, briefly introduce them to your course, provide an introduction for yourself, or even potentially give an overview of what an assignment is supposed to do. I'm sure we've all had that experience of spending a lot of time writing out very detailed step-by-step instructions about how to do an assignment, and students just don't read everything and then end up coming to us with questions later that are clearly indicated in the assignment directions. And one of the things that we can hope at least is that with a video, the information is presented in a really accessible way that students can get at, even if they don't read as closely as we might like. So before we go any further, a few things that I just want to say about Powtoon. I would highly recommend, and I mentioned this in my email before, I would highly recommend signing up for the educator plan if you are interested in it. You'll note the pro plans for regular people are really expensive. But if you scroll down, they kind of hide this and you click on educational plans, you'll see this is a lot more reasonable. And the cool thing with the teacher plans is they actually give you access to almost all of the content. The only real drawback of the teacher plan as opposed to the professional plan is that there is a watermark on the video. So you may have noticed it in the video. There was the little like Powtoon for EDU thing there. That's obviously something that would be a real deal breaker for a business. Obviously, they're not going to want to have this watermark on their videos. But for us, I think it makes almost no difference. So that is a easy price to pay, I think. I believe these are American dollars. So, you know, it's still the teacher plan is quite reasonable, I would say. I have not regretted making this payment. One of the things it also gives you access to, and this is a feature I have not used, is student accounts as well. You're able to have 10 students in your classroom with the teacher account. If you get the classroom one, I guess you get 60. I have not explored that at all. I think that would be interesting to use. Yes, Sherry, you can use that video as a file on your own, on YouTube or on your own computer. You can export it. You get the file. The difference between the educator version and the free version, as you'll see, is that you get access to all of the templates and all of the different animated characters, which is really, that's the whole reason to use Powtoon. So the way that Powtoon likes to market itself is not just as being like an animated video program, but the way they pitch it is that it's sort of like an online communication. They want to have like a communication platform. That's really what they want to be. And the heart of their whole thing is in the vast set of templates that they have available. So I'll just show you some of them here. And we can just scroll to the ones that they think are going to be most useful for educators. So there's a few here that they suggest. And the one that I'm just going to bring to your attention right away would be the teacher introduction right here. So I'll just show you the preview of it right now so you can see what it gives you, and then I'll show you what you can do with it. You can't save the videos in your own file, limited time to use it. Okay. I guess that's the other downside of the free version. With the educator version, you can download it. It's yours. I've uploaded my videos to YouTube. You get the file. You get an MP4 file, and you can choose if you want. You can have it just on the Powtoon cloud and just provide links to the Powtoon cloud. I myself like to just take the video and upload it to my own YouTube account, just because YouTube works well with a lot of things. Yeah. Yeah, Betty, you can certainly start with the free version. It is very limited, and I found I became almost immediately frustrated with it, but it's a good way just to check it out and just to see what the interface looks like, and just to get some ideas. If you do want to use it, you'll almost certainly have to pay for it though, because the amount of videos you can make is very limited. But I'll just show you here. So this is one that I want to go over today, which is the teacher introduction. And this is something that I've been doing in my classes, where I just have a little professor introduction page instead of, you know, the usual awkward video of me saying like, "Hi guys, I'm a professor." I make a little animated video, which is maybe a little more fun. So I'll show you just what the template looks like, and then I'll get into the guts of it. So that's what the template looks like. And the audio may be distorted sometimes in the preview because Powtoon is cloud-based, and sometimes, especially, I find when I'm using Zoom, it's just a little bit slow. But when you actually download the file and upload it to YouTube or whatever else you want to do, it comes out fine. Yeah. So let me just wait a minute for this to load up. It can sometimes be a little slow. One of the things that I highly recommend if you're using Powtoon is to use a web browser that's based on Chromium. So that would be Google Chrome, or the one that I prefer, which is Brave. It doesn't work as well with Firefox or Safari or Edge. It really wants to be on something based on Chrome. Let me just see. It's going a little slow here. That would be Brave. I am a big proponent of Brave. If you're interested in privacy and security, Brave is the way to go. It has a built-in ad blocker as well. And one of the cool things for Brave, I'll just show you right here, unrelated to Powtoon, but it's kind of interesting, is it shows you how many ads it's blocked, how much bandwidth it saved you, and how much time it saved you. And it's quite interesting to see, actually, how many things are constantly tracking you as you go throughout the web. Big proponent of Brave. Okay, hopefully this is ready now. Okay, so this is what the main Powtoon workshop interface looks like. And there are two different levels of complexity that you can do with it. I'll show you the most basic one right away, and that's when the edit button is clicked. So this is what you do when you've selected a template and you're just making fairly superficial changes to it. So, okay, so then you go in here, and certainly at the edit level, it's a lot like just editing PowerPoint slides. So you go through and you type in your name. You can change the font if you like. And it has different, for the fonts that it has different adjectives to describe each of them, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know, maybe I'm feeling a bit urban. I'm feeling a bit fancy today. Feeling a bit fancy. So I'll use a fancy font. Doesn't really look very good, but whatever. You can change the color of it here. So let's say I just want it to be red, really stand out. Again, it doesn't look good, but I can do this. And one of the main things that you do when you're in Powtoon is you can click on pretty much any element. There's a few limited options right at the top here, and if you want more options, you just click the gear, and it pops up this window. So one of the things that you can change here is opacity. So if you want it to be sort of see-through, you can do that. If you want to change how it is arranged with some of the other objects on the screen. So for example, let's just imagine that for some reason we wanted it to be over top of her. What we could do is we can click arrange so we can move it back so it can be behind her as well. And that is something which it looks a little silly there, but there are many situations where adjusting that is quite useful. One of the things that I'm obviously going to want to do is to change the animated character, because this doesn't really look like me. So I can go here and I can click swap. And what this will do is pop up on the side of the screen a menu of all of the other different resources that are available in Powtoon. So this is, I think, one of the coolest things about Powtoon is all of the different animated characters that they have. Something about animation that's just really eye-catching and interesting, and it allows you to express a lot of emotion and interest in things in a very simple way. So Powtoon has a bunch of different styles of animation. One of the ones that I tend to go to is the omnis. It's just the name for the style of drawing that they have here. And so they have, a huge range of different characters. Some are more or less realistic. And you can go through here, just wait for it to load. And I'll select one that looks a little more like me. Okay, so he's just up a little fancy, but this guy looks a little bit more like me. Oh God. And then what you can do is you can click on this button here. This is the pose button, and you can change the different animations that the characters are doing. And this is the real power of Powtoon. They have a huge array of different things that the characters are doing and emotions that they're expressing. And one of the reasons why I like to go to the Omnis characters is they have a huge range of different, there's lots of different things that they're doing. So I could say, whatever, I'm just sneezing. And then he'll just be sneezing there. So the cool thing about this is you don't have to be like an animator yourself. You don't have to be, going to prom 007. There you go. You don't have to be an animator or a graphic designer or anything like this. It's just you're picking from the stock set of animations, and they actually are quite versatile. So we'll just leave it at that for now. You can also change, the way that the character is facing. So you can use this to flip them. It's going really, really slow right now. Sorry for that. There we go. Okay, so he's turned around the other way and so on. And that's one of the most interesting things about Powtoon is being able to use those characters. Now we'll just go through and we can change the rest of it however we like. So I'd want to go through the whole thing and just change all of the characters to the same one that I had before. So I just change this. I'd swap her out again. And have it be another character that's just doing whatever action I want. And that's one of the main features. Sorry, it's going so slow. It's just really, really not, it's not liking having to go on Zoom and do this at the same time. Okay. Now, one of the things that you can change as well is transitions between scenes. So right here in between each one, you can just add different kinds of transitions. So I can have just a fade, zoom in, could have a really fun transition like a squeegee where it just squeegees the thing down. Other things that you can have in Powtoon are different props. And props is the term for pretty much anything other than a character that appears on screen. And many of these props have animations associated with them. So let's say instead of that happy face, I want, let's just see this pop up. Or let's just say I want a car there, or let's see if any of these are animated. Just put a bust there, and then it's got a little animation that it will run as the scene shows up. Now, the simplest way to make videos in Powtoon is just to use this edit button where you take the already pre-built scenes and the templates, and you can change things here or there. You can move things around, but it's fairly limited, and you're just sort of coloring within the lines. Or you could also, for example, change the background. So let's say here, if I wanted something a little more interesting, I could use like a little GIF background. So maybe something like this. I'll trim the video. So we'll be playing a little animation in the background. Okay, so that's the simplest way to do this. And then I'd go through and I'd fill in and I'd just change the goals, and I'd say, okay, whatever my goals actually are, change whatever wordings that didn't really seem appropriate for me. If I wanted to change the music, I just click on this audio button right here in the lower left corner. And let's just delete that. And then we'll add music. And it gives you access to an okay library of just free, royalty-free music. So let's see here. Maybe something like this. Whatever. Let's say that's the one I wanted to use instead. And then it would play that music throughout the video. Good question, Sherry. So this is the most basic, and this is probably what you want to do to get started. But what you will discover as you start playing around with this is very quickly you notice it seems really limited, and there's things that you want to do that this doesn't appear to let you to do. And so to get a little more complicated, the more intense version of Powtoon appears when you click the Create button. This is what gives you full control over all of these different scenes. And it introduces a new element to the page called the timeline. So I'll just wait for this to all pop up and show you a little more closely. So to answer Sherry's question, the way to get voiceovers, there's two ways to do it in Powtoon. You can either do it for your presentation as a whole, or you can do it for each slide. I typically tend to go slide by slide, just so I know exactly how long everything's going to take. The way to do this is you click the audio button, and then as long as you have the Create clicked, you can go Add Voiceover. And it gives you the option of either uploading something that you've already recorded. If you've already recorded something in a program like Audacity, it gives you the option of recording something right here within Powtoon, which is usually what I do. Or if you're really serious, it gives you links where you can hire voice actors to do things for you. Obviously, I have never done that, but hypothetically, that's a thing that could be done. So you can just click right here, start record. This is a sample voice recording. Save. I do have a microphone. Save. You could use the one in the computer. It will probably sound a bit tinny, but it's, I am a big proponent of investing in a microphone. It, I think, makes a really big difference in the quality of the sound that you put out there. But of course, you have to make the decision that's right for you. Typically, when you're adding a voiceover to a Powtoon, you want to turn the music way down. And I've learned through experience that you want it to be probably 30, if not lower. Yeah, what I have is a microphone called a Yeti Blue. It's a solid microphone. I love this thing. There are a few other things in the Yeti line which are a little bit cheaper, and do your own research. I would say I love having a microphone. I think it's great. So we'll see here now. Let me just preview what it sounds like on this page. So let's play it together. This is a sample voice recording. Okay. This is, yeah, so you can hear what it sounds like. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to do when you're making more complicated videos and you're wanting to depart a little bit further from what's baked into the template, is adjust the timing of things. And this is where Powtoon really starts to become different than something like PowerPoint. Down here at the bottom of the screen is the timeline, which shows at what point each element on the page appears. So let me just show you. You can preview. So at 0 seconds of this page, all that pops up is the lady right here. As you continue, then the words start to pop up. And then all of the other elements on the screen start to appear as well. So by the end of it, you can see all of this stuff here. If I decide that I want to mess around with the timing, so let's say for whatever reason, I want the character to pop up later. I'll just take this, I'll just move it to the end. And then when I play this scene, you can see the difference here. Sometimes in Powtoon, even at the best of times, you just need to reload the pages and like click pause and then click play. Just because it's cloud-based, it sometimes just gets confused. The latency isn't amazing. So here we go. Oh, come on, you. Okay, and you can see character pops out a little bit later. Now, one of the other things that you can do in Powtoon, and one of the things that allows you to do interesting things as well, is to change the entrance and exit animations of the characters and props. So the characters can appear on the screen in a variety of different ways. You can have it where they just sort of pop into being, or you can have them rise up from the bottom, move in from the side, or a few other interesting things. So what I can do is I can click on animation here. Or sorry, not animation, effects. And there's a few different ways that I can have them appear. So for example, I could have her move up, maybe slide up, and then I could add a hand to this as well. So the effect will be that it's like she's like a character in a scrapbook, and a hand will just move her right up. Yes, I'm trying to think. I think you can do that. Typically, what I have done is you have a 20-second time limit for your voice, and that's actually probably too long for most of them. So I just try to, what I do, oh wait, I see what you're saying. So you record the voiceover first. This is generally the order that I do it. You record the voiceover order first, and then as it's going, you can adjust the things on the timeline so that they appear in time with different things that you're saying. So if you want something to appear as you're saying it, so if you want to go, for example, into this one that I had, where there's the one part where I'm saying the different things that you can do with Powtoon. I want it to be so that as I say that you can do announcements, the announcements to pop up. When I say you can do lesson content, I want that one to pop up. When I say you can do introductions, I want that to pop up. And so I recorded the voiceover, and then I played it, and I adjusted the items here on the timeline to match the time that I wanted in the voiceover. So I'll just show you here what this looks like. Powtoon can be used to communicate announcements to your class. It can be used. So you see here, these items down here. Yeah, so down here, I have on the timeline just after 4 seconds, that's where in my voiceover I say something about announcements, and I moved these items over in the timeline. You just drag them so that they're in the spot that I wanted. And I don't want to necessarily get into too much into this, but you can also stack the items down here so that they're in groups, so you can move several things at the same time, which you often want to do. So for example, it may be that I want these images and the announcements to go at the exact same time. So I can just stack them like this. So it's a little harder to do because the zoom menu at the bottom is kind of interfering. And then they should be here stacked in a group, and I can then move this group around so that all of these things, the words and the props, will all move to whatever part of the timeline that I want. You can see all 4 elements here are all now grouped together. And so anytime I click on this down here, it will select all of them. So I can set their timing as I like. And this can allow you to do some very complicated things if you like, but often I just use it very simply to just time things with my voice, and just to make it so that things in the slides are dynamic rather than just being a static image. Okay. So this timeline is really key for doing a lot of interesting things in it. And one of the things that you're going to want to change sometimes are just like what the entrance and exit animations are, so they can appear in different ways. I think I showed you how in the one that we were looking at, I made it so that the lady is brought up by hand instead of just popping into existence. So
this is a sample voice.
Yeah. Stop. Okay, sorry, I was getting very confused there, so I had to stop that. Sorry about that. And that's a very useful thing to do. Now, you may discover, okay, good. Yeah, sometimes the audio is it doesn't work as well in the previews. Okay. Now, you may find as you're recording the audio or whatever else you're doing that you actually want more time on the slide than was initially allotted. So what you can do then is just add seconds to different parts of the slide. So you can go here and you can just add whatever, maybe I need a few more seconds. And then it will add those there, or you can take them away if it's running too long. Once you're finished with your video and you're ready to take it out into the world, so you want to save up here, give it a name. So I have Powtoon tutorial intro right here. And then I click publish. And under publish, you have a few different options. Generally, what I do is download the video. You can also download images of it. You can upload it directly to YouTube, although I like to have the copy myself and do that. You can click download video, and it will take a few minutes to render. So you go through, so whatever, Powtoon tutorial introduction, next, and then just click download with watermarks. And I typically just leave it as HD quality 720. To remove the watermarks, you got to pay the big bucks, so I don't do that. So I download with watermarks, and then it will render it, and it will actually send you an email when it's done. So if you don't want to wait around for it, you can just leave it and come back to it afterwards, and you'll get an email in your inbox that will say your Powtoon's ready, and you can download it. And then do whatever you like with it, whether that's uploading it to YouTube or uploading it to Canvas or whatever makes the most sense. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I've covered here so far before I start to push forward? does it seem like reasonable enough about how to use those templates and just start to put it together?
I was going to ask Andrew, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I can.
Oh, how long did it take for you to get to the point where you're doing the kinds of things that you showed us today? I mean, how many videos and how many hours do you think you put in?
You know what? Actually, not that many. I would say Powtoon is a very much a simple to learn, difficult to master program, where the thing of just using the templates and modifying them, that's super easy. Probably you could all do that within like an hour or less. You could put like to do the teacher introduction one. You could probably go and do that now, and maybe something would be a little tricky, but you'd probably be able to do it. The next step of being able to modify the slides a little bit and mess around with the timeline, it takes a little bit longer, but it's not, I don't think it's that hard. And it's one of those things where if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. To do more complicated ones which you're building entirely from scratch and you want the visual style to be consistent and everything like that, that would take longer. But I honestly would say with a few as in 2 or 3 hours of messing around with it, you can do some interesting stuff. And the cool thing about it is that there are so many interesting templates that you can adapt that you'll make stuff that's cool. And the templates are all very well designed. Yeah, Christine, it took no time at all. Yep, you can add your own images too. Yeah. Can you create and save your own templates? That's a good question. I think what you would be able to do, I don't think it would literally count as being making your own template, but it would be like you make your own file and then you duplicate it. So let me just see. I'm pretty sure you could just do that here. If we go, oops, if we go duplicate, oh, apparently you can actually just send as a template. So I guess you can. So I've never done that myself, but that seems like a thing that you can do. And to show you another thing, this is a great little template, and I actually used this to help my mom make an assignment for one of her classes. She's an elementary school teacher. This is just a Mission Impossible themed assignment. I'll show you this one. Just a little, there's lots of just like fun, silly ones like that. And I think you'll be able to see just as you browse through them, there's lots that you can adapt to your own purposes. So a lot of the things within Powtoon are, you know, they're assuming that it's going to be somebody using it for a company, probably to sell a product. So they have things like explain your video templates or sort of top 5, top 10 list type of things. And I think you can see how these can be very easily adapted to teaching content. So for example, I'm pretty sure I've used this 5 pieces of advice template in order to just give a lesson on, 5 things to do in your essay. Or I think it was I used it as something like 3 ways to improve your online writing, something like that. Just messing around with that is very easy, and you'll get a lot of mileage out of that. So I'll just show you this one again. And then I'll start to show you what you want to do when you're making something from scratch. I would highly advise working with a template at the beginning when you're using Powtoon, because the templates are really great and they're just well designed and the timing is pretty good and everything. And they're designed by actual designers, so they can generally do a better job than me. But sometimes the templates just don't really suit what I'm trying to do. And once after I've shown you this, then I'll show you how to make something from scratch, which is a little bit different. Okay. Come on, you. How many Powtoons do I use for one course? Well, I use a few different programs. I think the most Powtoons I've ever used for one course is about maybe 6, when I was using it to make different module introductions, introduction to the course as a whole, and so on. I think it's one of these things where I'm still learning the technology and learning different places that I can use it. I don't think there's, like, in principle, you could have one of these each week as just like an intro to the lesson. And I think that would be kind of a cool thing. Okay, so this one's very simple. It's just, here are 5 things, 5 ways to do blah. So you can see very easily how this can apply to kinds of courses that we're teaching, right? 5 ways to improve your oral communication skills or whatever. And what you can do in this is you can go here, you can change the prop. So instead of having a phone ringing, maybe I want to have something like, let's see here. Let's see what they have under Office. And generally when you go in props, if you just hover over the things, it will often have a little animation. So maybe I want a little magnifying glass here. Okay, looks a little silly that way, so I'll make it smaller. And move it up. And I will say, I know it's super slow right now. It does go much faster when you're not running Zoom at the same time. And then it does a little animation there. Okay. Now, I believe that it's possible for you to add closed captions, if I'm not mistaken. The other thing that I know that I've done is when I've integrated this into other programs, I have, there are other programs that I've used, such as Articulate, where you can just add in the closed captionings directly under the videos that you use. So that's what I have done in the past as well. So you can see basically how you can adjust this. Now, if you're wanting to make something from scratch, so I'll click on Create, close this, and they give you a few different options when you're at the start. Ooh. Typically, the one that I use is horizontal. They also have a little screen capture tool where you can just capture, if you have a webcam, yourself and show whatever you're doing on screen, sort of like Jeff sometimes does for us in I forget what the program is, the TechSmith program. So I'll click on horizontal. That's usually the format that's most appropriate for things that are YouTube video shaped. And what should pop up is the option of which visual style do you want to use. And Powtoon has 4 main kinds of visual styles to choose from. Just wait for this to load up.
Can I ask you a question while it's loading, Andrew?
Yep.
To follow up John's question. So I incorporated one of the videos you made for the PSW program, and it does have closed captioning. So did you add that after the fact?
I did not add anything to it. So it was just baked in, I guess.
Okay.
It may also be because I upload everything to YouTube. I know YouTube has that feature.
Yeah, it was a YouTube. Yeah, it was YouTube. Okay.
So that would be a real argument in favor of just uploading everything to YouTube, because I know YouTube has that feature, and I know that if you really want to your YouTube videos, if it doesn't do it automatically, you can also upload captions manually to your YouTube videos. So I would say that would be the workflow. Make the video in Powtoon, upload it into YouTube, then embed the video from YouTube into Canvas. And I know my own experience is I don't ever just put MP4s right into Canvas, because I find that it just doesn't like it as well. Canvas seems to like embedding YouTube videos better. So that's what I tend to do. So these are the different visual styles that you can pick from. In addition to the animations, like the cartoony ones, there are also more realistic ones like this. I tend not to use those because I would use a different program if I was making that sort of stuff. But it's up to you, really. The whiteboard ones can be quite striking, although the amount of props that you have is a little bit more limited. The one that has the most resources available is Cartoon, but I've used all of them. They're all helpful in their own ways. So let's just say for this one, I want to do Modern Edge. You'll notice as you start using Powtoon that a lot of these things look really familiar to you, because a lot of the companies and ads that you've seen are using Powtoon. Okay, now, when you're making things from scratch, typically what I like to do is avoid having to come up with something 100% original as much as possible. You are perfectly free, if you want, to just start changing the background. So you could click here and you could come up with a whole different background, whatever background you like. You could upload your own images to it, whatever. Let's just see here. Image backgrounds, whatever, something like this, pretty generic kind of background that you can then add things to. Whatever, you could have something that's a bit more abstract, just like this. You could have various locations. So, excuse me. So let's say you want to have it be set in an office, and you could have this. Typically, what I like to do, however, before I start fussing around with that, is I click Scenes, and I see if there are any template scenes that are useful. So Powtoon not only has a large library of template presentations where the entire thing is almost pre-scripted and you can just modify it, they also have a large set of template slides. And often, even when I go well off of the template itself, I usually like to start with one of these, because they're designed by someone who's way better than me at design. And they tend to be a little bit more visually striking than anything I could come up with. So whatever. Let's do something like this. Yes. And then I can start modifying this in all of the different ways that I've shown you so far. So my video. and so on. And then I can just add more slides. I can look for the background if I like. I can look for just the template scene if I like. I can look for different characters and so on. There's a lot to really explore with this. It's far more than can be covered in this training session, but I think you get a good idea of the kinds of things that it can do for you. Now, we're starting to run out of time, but are there any questions that you have about, or anything else that you think I should go into a little more detail about for Powtoon, or how it could be useful to you?
Andrew?
Yep.
If I were to ask you, what is the main, say, advantage over this, say, to PowerPoint? Which I know it's a little bit different, right? So if I ask that question, like, what would you say?
Dynamism. It's PowerPoint is mostly about creating static slides. This is about creating dynamic content. And the biggest thing is having the characters and having the character animations. And for example, one of the kinds of scenes that you can often work with here, if you go in scenes, you can get different situations. And one of the things that I think is often difficult, but even though we all know it's necessary in the kinds of courses that we teach, is to think about how can we make the material relevant to the students? How can we speak to the real life situations that they're going to find themselves in, so that the content that we're describing isn't just abstract, right? And Powtoon is something that I think can really help with that. So if, for example, let's just go into industries here. So you can easily, for example, put a scene where, let's just see. So there's lots of different medical scenes here, things related to that, whatever. Let's just show this. So imagine you have pre-health students and you're trying to talk about the usefulness of oral communication to healthcare workers, right? And so you can make a video and you have characters like this and you show them in the kinds of scenes that your students are actually going to find themselves in, and show how the skills that you're talking about directly apply to those sorts of situations. That's something that I think Powtoon does really well, and it does so in a really dynamic way that feels alive, as opposed to PowerPoint slides, which feel more dead. The other big advantage is, PowerPoint presentations are at their best when you're giving a live presentation and you're sort of riffing on them. These videos are especially suited for asynchronous delivery, when students are just looking at the content whenever they're looking at it.
Thanks.
Ask Andrew, what sort of limit would you put on it in terms of like how much content is too much content to deliver through this medium? Like, we want to do a 2-hour lesson with this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a 1-hour lesson, and maybe not even a lesson, but maybe more of like something to set the atmosphere or just kind of kick things off. And I haven't used it, so that's a real question.
That's a great question, and my answer would be short, like 2 to 5 minutes, I would say, for Powtoon videos. And one of the things that you'll find, and that I learned as I've made more of them, is you want the amount of time on each slide, each scene, to be fairly brief. It's generally at its best when it's only up there for like 5 to 10 seconds. Like 10 seconds is, you're starting to get a bit long. I know when I've made videos and they've been like, I've had some slides which are on 20 seconds, it feels kind of weird when I'm watching them. It feels drawn out. And so really what I think this is useful for is when you're communicating something short, like the kind of thing that you would use an email or two. It's like a bit more than what you can communicate in an email. And in fact, you can even embed it in emails as something to communicate with people if you're sending an announcement to the class. That's the kind of thing that it's good for. So I would say it's good for like module starters, assignment introductions, teacher introductions, brief bite-sized micro lessons. That's where this tool is at its best. This is not something that's a replacement for your webinars. It's not a replacement for the main content that you have on Canvas. This is a supplement to that. It's like an attention grabber. It's a component of a larger lesson rather than the main part of the lesson, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, when I played mine back, I asked myself 2 questions. Can I read everything? Because on the free version, you can't do voiceover. So everything I had to say had to come up with words. Can I read it? And when did I get bored? When did I want to turn it off?
Yeah.
That's how long I decided to make it.
Yeah. I would say always, and the more that I've used it, the shorter I've made things, the shorter I've made the videos as a whole, and the shorter I've made each scene, it just works better. It keeps it dynamic, it keeps it fresh, keeps things moving. And the longer, like you feel exactly that point you mentioned, Sherry, where it's like you start to get bored, you start to tune out, and students definitely feel that as well. Okay, well, I guess we're out of time now. So thank you very much to everyone. I'll be sharing this video, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have later on.
Oh, can I ask one thing? How did you prove that you were a teacher to get the teacher fee?
I believe I just used my Mohawk email, and I honestly can't remember for this program if there was a vetting period. I know for some of these programs that I've used, they have some process where they just check that you're at a legitimate educational institution. I can't remember if Powtoon was, it was automatic. I think there was a brief vetting period, but it was like a day or something, maybe not even.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so thanks everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
Take care.